Labą dieną visiems susirinkusiems. Visų pirma, norėčiau prisistatyti. Mano vardas yra Enrika Brazauskė, aš esu užsienio kalbų redaktorė iš leidyklos Baltas lankos klėt. Ir šiandien vadoruosiu į pristatymą. Aš noriu nuoširdžiai padėkoti visiems, kad radote laiko ir prisijungėte. Tai mūsų leidykla Baltas lankos klėt jau 10-metį yra viena iš pagrindinių edukacinių priemonių leidyklų Lietuvoje. Esame vienos iš didžiausių švietimo leidybos grupių Europoje klėt grup dalis. Ir mums labai svarbus yra pagrindinis šios grupės veiklos principas, tai yra glaudus bendradarbiavimas su mokytojais. Būtent tokiu būdu galime sukurti priemonės, kurios geriausiai atliepia tai, ko iš tikrųjų mokytojams ir mokiniams reikia. Tai pagrindinis šios dienos pristatymo tikslas tai yra pasidalinti gerosiomis praktikomis ir patarimais, kaip sėkmingai dirbti skirtingų gebėjimų klasėse ir pristatyti jums naują lokalizuotą anglų kalbos leidinį 5. klasių moksleiviams, kurį šiais metais mes ir pilotuojame. Tai turėčiau paminėti keletą svarbių aspektų. Tai visų pirma, kad mūsų pristatymas jisai truks apie 45 minutės. Po pristatymo skirsime jums laiko užduoti klausimus, juos galėsite užduoti keliais skirtingais būdais, galėsite pakelti ranką, jeigu norėsite paklausti klausimo žodžiu. Tai padaryti galėsite apačioje paspaudus funkciją React ir tokiu būdu pakėlę ranką galėsite užduoti klausimą. Jeigu nenorite klausti garsiai, o tiesiog parašyti klausimėlį, tai taipogi apačioje yra parinktis Q&A, kur galėsite savo klausimus parašyti raštu. Klauskite lietuviškai, angliškai, kaip tik jums patogiau. Vienintelis prašymas, kad klausimus pateiktumėte šios prezentacijos pabaigoje. Taip pat atkreipiu jūsų dėmesį, jog šitas susitikimas yra įrašomas. Tai dar kartą dėkoju, kad esate čia ir kviečiu pradėti. Tai visų pirma, norėčiau trumpai paminėti, jog pilotuojama mokymo medžiaga yra lokalizuota ir skiriasi nuo tarptautinio leidinio tuo, kad yra papildyta mokytojams ir mokiniams aktualiu turiniu, tokiu kaip tarpdalykinės integracijos ir kultūrinio pažinimo užduotimis, papildomomis užduotimis gilesniam įgūdžių ugdymui, lietuviška gramatikos santrauka bei anglų lietuvių žodynėliu. Taip pat norėčiau priminti, jog pilotavimo proceso metu ugdymo medžiaga yra rengiama ir pristatoma dalyviams 3 etapais. Tai yra kiekvienam sezonui. Tai yra rudens, žiemos ir pavasario sezonai. Kiekvienam sezonui artėjant į pabaigą atsiųsime jums elektroninę apklausą, kurioje prašysime pasidalinti savo įžvalgomis apie jau gautą ir su mokiniais praeitą mokymo medžiagą, bei pristatysime medžiagą kitam sezonui. Rekomenduojame pastebėjimus žymėtis viso proceso metu, tai palengvins ir apklausos pildymą, o mums suteiks galimybę kuo greičiau ir efektyviau sureaguoti ir atsižvelgti jūsų pastabas. Kadangi prasidėjus rugsėjui ne visi prie pilotavimo proceso norėjo prisijungti dalyviai, visgi šiemet mokys 5-tokus, dar galim pasiūlyti kelias vietas mokytojams, kurie norėtų prisijungti prie pilotavimo net ir dabar, bei gauti savo klasėms nemokamą ugdymo medžiagą 25-26 mokslo metams. Tai pasidalinsime visais kontaktais, kaip tai padaryti, jeigu dar to nepadarėte, o norėtumėte. O kas liečia klausimus apie patį pilotavimo procesą, tai jeigu tokių turėsite, taipogi labai prašau pasilaikyti šio susitikimo pabaigai, pasistengsime atsakyti į juos kuo išsamiau, tiesiog pabaigoje. Taigi norėčiau pristatyti šios dienos kalbėtoją. Šios dienos pristatymą ves kalbėtoja iš Čekijos, turinti daugiau nei 25 metų darbo patirtį mokant skirtingų poreikių klasėse ILT srityje, yra įgijusi Cambridge, Celta ir Delta kvalifikacijas, jau daugiau nei 12 metų bendradarbiaujanti su vienu iš lyderių mokomųjų leidinių leidyboje, tai yra Macmillan Education, vedanti seminarus įvairiose šalyse, apmokanti mokytojus ir besidalijanti gerosiomis praktikomis. Tai su mumis yra Vladimira Skopsova. So Vladimira, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Enrika. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to all your homes or in schools and I guess classrooms or maybe staff rooms. And thank you for the nice welcome. And I would just start sharing my presentation and let's have a look at teaching mixed ability classes. All right. So I just would like to check if everything is okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Fantastic. All right. So as was already mentioned, I guess, we're going to talk about teaching mixed ability classes, but to let you know what's waiting for you, I like to show you the plan for the following 45 minutes, let's say. We are going to go through some, let's say, golden rules of how to teach mixed ability classes or some basic ideas which you can use in the class. And then we will have a look at some specifics which you can find in Get Involved, the ones that will help you teaching mixed ability classes. And of course, at the end of the session, there will be some time for Q&As. So if you have any questions, you can either write them into the chat box or you can leave them for later. And at the end, we will definitely answer as much as we can. So let's have a look at what is actually a mixed ability class. So we all know that there are many names in language teaching. We usually speak about mixed ability classes, but it's quite common to talk about inclusive classes or heterogeneous classes. And I would like to say that I guess that today we create a kind of mixed ability class, because I suppose that we are teachers with different teaching backgrounds, teaching maybe a bit different students. Some of you are very experienced teaching mixed ability classes. There might be some who are just starting to teach those classes. So yeah, we basically know this experience. We have it from our everyday lives. And there's a tiny little joke in between English teachers which says that heterogeneous class is basically each class which has more than one student. So even though you teach just 2 students, there comes the situation where one of the students is better at something, or maybe it's easier for them to do something in English. They have different interests because their family gives them more opportunities. It's easier for them to maybe be fluent in English, and so on and so forth. So there are so many differences in each case that basically just entering the classroom means that you are teaching a mixed ability class. So what helps? Basically, at the beginning, we can always speak about a way of differentiation and creating graded activities. It means that we are trying to have a look at the situation in the classroom and we try to differentiate in between the various students. Of course, supposing that you've got many students in the classroom, it's impossible to spend your whole evening just preparing material for each student in the class. On the other hand, we are trying to find maybe some patterns in which we can put the students into the same groups and somehow prepare material which would be easily graded so that they can use them in the way they need to use it and in the way which is helpful for them. The main idea is basically to come from the situation where everybody has the same conditions, where we put everybody at the same starting line, into the situation where we give them some kind of balanced conditions. And we know that we support somebody a bit more, but what we want them to do is to reach the same goal. And therefore, we maybe give them some kind of more support. And the question is whether it's our private, straightforward support, or whether we change the exercise a little bit, we change the task. But that's what we are trying to do in the classroom. I really like this definition of like what we have to do while teaching a group of students. And the idea is here that on one hand, we help all the students who are struggling, the ones who maybe don't have English as their talent. However, they are still in the class. They need to meet the needs. They need to follow the whole curriculum, and they have to survive somehow. On the other hand, there's always the group of students who are always finished. They always know everything. They are perfect in everything. They watch Netflix 24/7, so they know all the vocabulary, lots of accents, and so on and so forth. And sometimes it seems they are not there, but there is still the kind of big group in between. And these are those students who are somehow good. They work, they try to learn as much as they can. But still, they might seem to be a bit invisible at what moment, because we are always thinking about how to help the ones who are not that strong. And then we need to somehow cater the ones who are the strong ones. But we also have that big class in between, which is waiting for what we bring. What I love using as a very basic tool, especially when I have the feeling that I don't have much time to prepare my lessons in the way that I can't really spend hours creating some exercises and tasks, is Bloom's taxonomy. You can find like various ideas of how to create this taxonomy. And I think this one is very useful, or might be very useful in an English classroom, because here, as you can see, we've got kind of steps which leads us from the very basic ways of thinking, like the thinking skills here are the ones which we use, especially like little kids quite normally on daily basis when we list something or just define a thing, or when we label. So talking about students, we might expect that they will be able to list the words when I say like, okay, I want you to give me a list of farm animals. So here they will be able to say, okay, there is a horse, there is a cow, and so on and so forth. But moving more to the right, we are going to go to like higher thinking skills. So from comprehension to application, let's say that there's somewhere like where we want to have our students in general, but there definitely would be those who can reach those far right parts like analysis, synthesis, and even evaluation. And here are those kind of complex activities in which the students don't just do the basic things, but they have to justify something. They have to really interpret an idea which is hidden behind something, or they have to compare things. And even though it seems that this taxonomy is not something we clearly link with teaching English, we can use this idea when we are thinking about how to differentiate when we prepare a task. So thinking about how this works, let's have a look at a situation in the classroom. You're in front of having a reading task, and you know that there will be those students in the middle who will just go through the activity of answering the question. That's the basic idea, like read the text, and then there are 10 questions in which you have, let's say, A, B, C options. So the students read the text and they try to decide which answer is correct. However, you already know that not all the students will be able to cover it. So if you think back about the taxonomy chart and you're traveling more to the left, you can think about helping them. So here we might help them with the idea of like, okay, so I know that it will be difficult for you. So let's say that I'll give you a hand and you can use the dictionary while you are reading. However, there of course will be some students who even with the dictionary will struggle. So then maybe I can decide to ask them to focus just on the first paragraph or maybe the first 2 paragraphs and focus all their energy there so that they are able to finish the task at least at that area of the reading task. And again, on the other hand, there will be those students who will be very quickly ready. They will answer the questions in a few minutes. And we need to bring some activities that will keep them interested in the topic. So, for example, I can ask them like which points, which were mentioned in the article, do they agree with or disagree with. Here, they have to start thinking really hard. They will really spend some time working on the activity, and doing that, they will also have to activate those higher thinking skills, which will keep them occupied. Or there could even be something more complicated. You can bring some other language skill, which might be writing in this case, and there might be the idea of asking them to write an email to the author, giving their point of view. So this is basically a strategy I would like to introduce while thinking about how to differentiate in the mixed ability class to have a look at the ideas of how to go to the lower thinking skills as well as to the higher thinking skills areas, and think about changing the task in the way that you don't have to spend much time recreating anything in the book, but your students are still happy with what they're doing. So let's have a look at this activity in a more practical way. I'll show you the chart, and here is an activity from a book. This activity comes from a unit which talks about jobs, and one of the exercises introduces a list of various jobs which the students are supposed to know. And of course, there is a task, and they say that what the students can do is to have a look at some photos which are in the same page, and they can link the names of the jobs with the pictures. However, I would ask you now to think about what might be done so that we can make the task a little bit easier. So if you have a look at the, let's say, more left part of the box or of the chart, can you think of any activity which would make it a bit different to just matching the words and the photos, but still allowing even the low-level students to jump in and somehow be a part of this activity? Maybe if you would like to share it in the chat, if you have any ideas what the students might try. Perfect. Okay, thank you for your answer. Yeah, definitely. Definition might be one of the things which the students might be able to do. So they might say, okay, doctor works in a hospital. And let's say that even lower level students will be happy with such an activity. Perfect. When I was thinking about that, I also thought that maybe translation would be helpful. Yeah, okay, yeah, somebody mentions that like we might use both languages, like Lithuanian and English. So that might be the situation where even the students who are not 100% sure what all the words mean, they would get the translation using both languages. Okay. And now let's have a look at the right part. What activity or like let's say what activity might be used to make even those fast finishers happy? Yeah, you can either have a look at the far right column, like evaluation or even synthesis, something from the purplish or pinkish part. Cool. Yeah. Compose sentences. Lovely. Okay, adding their private point of view, writing down what they want to do. Okay, which might be kind of, giving the value or judging that. Perfect. Great idea again. Okay, so categorizing. Super, super, super. Yeah, so I guess that now you have the idea of what I wanted to say at the beginning when you just saw the chart and it seemed like lots of words put together. I think that this chart, especially, as I said, like when the time pressure is there, it gives you so many ideas. As soon as you start reading the words with the activities, it kind of with the combination of the concrete activity, it will always give you some idea of what to do with the lower level students and higher level students, because you always some kind of project the idea into that. And you say, oh my God, yeah, I can do this, or I can do that. And you don't have to rewrite the activity at all. You just add the comment and you say, okay, so after you finish it, you can continue in this way, and the other part of the group can continue in that way. Or it could be both written on the board, and the students can decide if they want to do the activity 1, which would be maybe the definition and translation of the words, or if they rather want to do the judgment thing. So they would say like, okay, I want to do this, or I want to do that because, which is definitely much more challenging. All right. Yeah. I was also, when I was thinking about, I was also thinking about comparing the jobs. So even like some better students might think about maybe who is richer after they work like that, or maybe who works harder, and so on and so forth. Right. So that was the idea of what to do when you want to grade the task and you don't really want to rewrite the book in the evening. Another way how to work with mixed ability classes is to add collaboration in the lessons. I guess that here we have like 2 main areas what we can do. One of them is group work. So I've got a tiny little question for you. And it is like, how many members should a group have? So what about you? What do you do in your classes? What's usually the typical group you work with? Right. Okay, so we all like to work with kind of, let's say, like bigger groups than 2. Yeah, okay, sometimes pairs are effective. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so yeah, we are always somewhere around those numbers like 3, 5, and 4. I don't have them in the correct order. It's just because it very often happens that in books there's written like that we usually create like groups of 3. That's quite typical. And there's only one problem with the groups of 3, and it is that what can happen is that, especially when the kids are teenagers, that 2 of them are friends and they start working together, and we've got that one sad one who doesn't have anyone to cooperate with and to share their ideas with. So there's that only danger, let's say. However, when you have the groups of 5, it's a kind of nice way, because if they don't want to work together, there's still the pattern of the group, like tiny little subgroup of 2 and 3, which is something which we like. Or when we have the group of 4, which seems to be pretty safe, what can happen is that we have 2 pairs that cooperate somehow. And it means that these are the most effective ways of putting students together, because there is always somebody they can talk to. The groups of 4 and 5, there are lots of other people from the classroom, so they always have to talk to somebody who they kind of like, or they have some better friendship with, or like at least relationship. And it's the way how we can help them start talking and not to be shy and just sit and wait. What I love using when working with groups are roles. I guess that you always have some experience with using roles. I think it's quite popular. However, with our students, we have that strange habit of creating some new, sometimes even crazy roles. Students at my school, they are quite creative, and they always like to think about a new role we have never tried before. So, of course, there are those typical ones, like the team leaders and the ones who are like time checkers, or the other typical ones. But my students have already created illustrators, who's always the kids who love painting or drawing in general. So there is always at least one person in the group who creates finally a poster or at least a collage or something, or sometimes even a video which represents what they were doing. Then we've got always a group of researchers. And those are the ones who can use tablets or phones, and they are looking for more information, which are somehow connected to the topic. And then they have to add them to the presentation which the whole group has. So they always have to be like very active, and they are always competing to find something super interesting. And we also love to have vocab hunters, which are quite useful if the students are weaker. So the vocab hunters can help them translate some words they don't understand. Or on the other hand, they can go further and they can find some specific words which are connected to the topic. So the kids who are those faster learners, they might get more words behind even the idea of the book, where they try to kind of enlarge their vocabulary. So if you imagine a project like this, which I think is perfectly prepared for that role idea strategy, here the kids are supposed to think about a day of a famous person. Here it's Taylor Swift, because of course she's very, very popular. So the kids are really interesting about how such a person lives. So here we might have a group of people, like there would be a team leader who's in charge of the whole group, but there also might be somebody who would be very creative and who might prepare either a poster or a presentation that would cover all the connected ideas. There will be some opportunity for the kids to discuss who they are going to find more information about. So they will find somebody who's famous and interesting for them, and they would put all the ideas together. There will be a bunch of those who are those, researchers who will go online and they'll find all the tiny little pieces of information about the life of that famous person. And then the rest of the class, they would put it together. Then there would be the vocab hunters who would help everybody to understand everything. And finally, there might be a, let's say, journalist or somebody who might even interview the famous person at the end, like playing a role play somewhere, like pretending they are on TV or maybe somewhere at a concert. So this is something what even teenagers then like, because they find it fun and they get interested into the topic, looking for the information about the people they know, and somehow they are open to playing those roles then and using English, which I find the most important. So I think it's really great. Another thing which we very often hear about in when we discuss teaching mixed ability classes are anchor activities. And they are called anchor activities because we really are looking for a kind of anchor for those fast learners. Because when you imagine what happens in the classroom is that there are the students who are already finished, and sooner or later, even though they're like those, good girls and good boys, they start getting bored. And what we need is to find the anchor so that they stay in the topic or in the activity for that long we need, so that all the rest of the class is also ready and you can go on, let's say, either to check the answers or just basically continue. So what I use is that we've got a list of activities what the students can do when they are finished. And there are two ways how to use it. One is to have a general, like, are you finished poster in the classroom, which might be something which is based on your agreement with the students, or like, because you know the students, you're the expert for them, right? So you can choose the activities according to what they like. Or you can have just a special list of those activities, which is like just created for that one day because you know that it's somehow connected. This is the kind of general list of activities. And because I already mentioned that the students in my classrooms, like our school, they're very creative. So one of the activities they can do is that either they draw or find in a book or take a picture which is connected to the topic and they label it. So the idea which can come might be something like that. This is taken from Get Involved, but what they do is that they even like search something online. Of course, they are always trying to find something either scary or funny to be somehow interesting. And then they have to go and they have to label it. So here they can use the dictionary, they can learn new words, and they still stay in the topic of animals, which was here the most important task. What they also can do is that they take the words and they create a word search for the others. They can write a note or a letter to me. They can either write about what they've learned in the activity, or maybe just about what they're doing, how's their life going. That's quite difficult. They can also complain. They can say what I should do or shouldn't do. It always depends. And the last thing is read silently. And I would love to share a tiny little project we have because it's quite popular in our school. And it's a blind date library, which means that we've got a box, which is called like that. And in the box, there are white envelopes. And I'll show you the envelope. And it works in the way that on each envelope, there's written a topic, genre, and level of the book, which is put inside. And as soon as the kid reads it, because they can't have a look at the book itself, they always have to just read what's on the envelope. So based on what's on the envelope, they decide whether they want to read it or not. And if they decide to read it, they have to read at least a half of that. That's the agreement. They can't stop after the first 2-3 pages. And then they give it rating, which are the stars here. And if they want to, they can even add some information about what they liked or what it's about, like as kind of detailed information they are able to write about the book. So this is something which is quite popular. We usually, before Christmas, we buy 2-3 new books added there, and the students are usually eager to find the new ones, and it really works and makes them read. Okay. And the last part of the generated ideas is the feedback or giving feedback. Of course, there are lots of reasons why we ask students for feedback, not just at the end of the lesson, but here let's focus only on that. And regarding mixed ability classes, I think the feedback is very important because it gives you a great overview of where the class is and what the students need. So it will like perfectly help you with the further planning, because as soon as you see how the students worked or how they got the idea and so on, it will give you the idea of what the tomorrow's lesson should be about. And how to do it. There are, of course, millions of ways how to do it, but the ones which, again, I find very practical, very easy to be applied are exit tickets. And I mostly use these 3 types of exit tickets, where the first one is very easy. It's just a beginning of a sentence. We have the agreement that I write the beginning in English, but the students, if they are not able to finish it in English, they can finish it in our language. So that's the way how you make even the lower level students participate. Another activity is that they have the exit ticket with 3 hashtags. And I just want them to hashtag the lesson. They are really great at that. They are very, very, very well experienced from social media. So this is something which is the fastest. Or sometimes even after either grammar activity, I do kind of tiny little test, which might be that I just give them 4 questions with the A, B, C, D options. And they create, they just write down the answer. They just create the exit ticket in the way that they say, okay, 1 is A, 2 is D, 3 is B. So they're done in a few minutes. And again, they leave the exit ticket in the box, and that's the end of the lesson for them. So this is a very practical way, which is not time consuming. And as soon as the kids get used to it, you will very quickly get the idea of how they worked or how they did, how they are at the end of the lesson. Another way is something which is called head, heart, and hand. I usually do it in the way that we discuss it. I don't always ask everybody. It's more just kind of discussion for the whole class. And we discuss about like what I'm taking home in my head, what I'm taking home like in my heart, kind of emotionally. And the hand here is for how useful it was for me, like what I bring regarding the ideas for my life, like what I will use, what was handy. So this is just kind of quick look at two things which might be quite easy to use. And I also wanted to share one more, which is a kind of long-term feedback. It's not that kind of end of the end lesson thing. But this is from a person, from a student who did get involved A1+ last year. And we had those kind of unit windows. In those unit windows, they wrote down what they learned. And they also took notes about what they need to learn more about, because they were not that good at that. Then after each unit, they got the kind of little piece of paper, and on that they evaluated themselves of how they were doing in that unit, and I also evaluated them, and they put it into that tiny little envelope here. You could also turn the piece of paper, and on that piece of paper they were writing a message for the future them, like write to future you about how you did in unit 1. So some of them really liked it. Some of them were quite resistant to that, but they always wrote down at least like one sentence. And at the end of the school year, we drove that head, because we had like the whole year project was something about like what's in my head. And the idea was that they wrote down like what was in their head after studying English for 1 year using that book in their 6th, 7th grade. So this is also a kind of idea of how to get feedback from the students and how to work on that continuously with some kind of end of year follow-up, which would give you the idea of how they were doing. But now let's have a look at some get involved strategies, which are pre-prepared here, so that, as I say, you don't have to spend the nights and evenings preparing, but can have more fun just teaching. The first thing is, and it's really very helpful, that the activities in the workbook have stars. And the stars always indicate how easy or difficult the activity is. So here I was just wondering if you could have a look at that activity 1, 2, and 3 and put them into the correct order, how you think they're difficult, like which one is the easiest to which one is the most challenging one for the students. Right. So I guess you mostly agree that number 2 should be the easiest, and it is the easiest one, because here the student just put the was or were into the right gap. Yeah, okay, so I can see just the agreement here that number 3 is, let's say, in the middle, and number 1 is the most challenging one. So what happens in the workbook is that you can see the page full of activities, and each activity has a number of stars. And what's fantastic is that each activity practices the same grammar. So you have one activity for each level, which just practice using was and where, but from that situation where they just have to focus on what the difference between was and where is, into that situation, which you can see in number 1, where they even have to create questions, but not just questions they like, but the questions that would be answered with a specific piece of information. So great choice for everybody in the classroom, and easier job for you. The same way of ranking you can find in the worksheets, which are on the online platform, just so that you know, they are not with stars anymore. They are called basic, standard, and higher. But the activity is basically the same, or the idea is the same. It's from the like easier ones to the standard ones, and finishing with the challenging ones. Then I was thinking, of course, about how to modify the material, because what will always happen is that in the classroom, you might think about more ways how to change the activities, and you say, okay, I've got a book. What I can't do is to take scissors and cut something out to make it easier or more difficult. And there is a fantastic helper, which are the Post-it notes. So what I usually ask my fast finishing students, the fast learners, is to have a Post-it note piece of paper in their textbook. And what they use it for is that every now and then I tell them to cover a part of an exercise. So for example, here in the activity where the students were given a list of some new words, with some pictures that basically demonstrate the activities. For the ones who are the fast learners, I ask them to use the Post-it notes to cover the list and just to write the names of the activities next to the icons. So they are doing the same activity, but they can't see the box which gives them the ideas, and it's more challenging if they have the feeling that it's too difficult. They just take the Post-it note out and they do the same activity as the others. Oh, sorry. Yeah, here. So that's a tiny little hack. Another thing you'll find in the book is a way to formative assessment. It's prepared for most skills, especially for writing, speaking, and also for project work. And how it works is that you, for example, have a writing lesson, such as here. There are some tiny little text where some people write basic information about them. And as a teacher, you can print out a special chart in which the students and you can see how you assess their product. So you've got basically 5 bands saying how far they've gone, with band 1 the lowest. And there are the criteria starting with task fulfillment, continuous language, organization, and so on and so forth. And the students clearly see that, for example, maybe in task fulfillment, they covered everything. They are at the top, fantastic. But with the language, there might be something which they can make better. And here, because you find, you say that, okay, in the language, you're band 4, they can clearly see that if they want to get to band 5, they have to cover that more. And they can read it, and they can very easily change their work for better, and they can get band 5. So here they can like step by step improve, and for you it's much easier to give them formative assessment, which would lead them somewhere where they can get. The same thing, which is very helpful, is graded summative assessment. So it's not only about formative part, it's also about the summative one. But what you can again do is that you don't have to focus just on one level, but you can either decide or give the students the opportunity to choose either the standard or the higher level. Of course, it's always necessary to think about like what will happen if somebody uses the higher one, and of course maybe makes more mistakes. But that's something what depends on the way you teach or the way your student your school assess. But there is the fantastic opportunity to do it, and here you can see the difference between two tests which are both for Unit 6. But in the lower one, in the standard one, you can see that there's not that much text, that there is more visual support. There are only 3 options where we have those A, B, C questions, while in the higher one, it seems, even like when you have a look at that, a bit more challenging. And the same comes for the reading. On the left, you can see the typical reading, which is in the book. However, if you in your class have students who suffer, let's say, from dyslexia, or they have those ADHD troubles and it's difficult for them to focus, you can give them a text which is pre-prepared in the online support. And here, the text has fewer pictures, and it's much easier to read it without distraction. So even the students who are easily distracted would be able to follow the text, and it would be much more pleasure for them to read it. On the other hand, if you have those ones who love reading a lot, after reading the basic test, you can give them something which is called longer read. And as you can see, this is quite dense. However, full of information and accompanied with a special worksheet, which gives them the opportunity to check how they understood. Last but not least, I would also love to mention the teacher's book, because it gives you lots of opportunities to, again, think about your lessons from the perspective of those different students. First of all, in the teacher's book, you will find the passages which are those fast finishers blocks. So there is always an idea of what to do with my fast finishers, what task to give them, how to anchor them in the lesson so that they are not bored and they don't start doing things I don't want them to do. They also offer some extra activities. So again, if you know that your students are especially interested in some areas, you can use these ideas to give them more opportunities to enjoy it. And on the other hand, there are parts such as reinforcement. So as soon as the situation is that the students need to have more practice and need to go further or deeper in the topic, there is an idea how to. And last but not least, there's always some kind of help of where you can find some further practice. So you don't have to spend time going through all the support, looking for, oh my God, where's another exercise or where's another activity? But you always get a list in the teacher's book and you know, okay, this is online, this is in the workbook, this is somewhere else, but you have concrete places where you find all the support. I'm not saying that this is the only feature which the book gives you. It's not just about teaching mixed ability classes in the area in which this book is great. But there are many, many more things which I think you'll enjoy, and you will find out step by step what you like and what your students like. However, I think these are the most, let's say, precious we have when we teach our classes, and that help us with those different levels of students we have and meet every day. So I would like to thank you for all your answers, all your attention, and I would open the Q&A section if you would like to ask anything which either was or wasn't said.
Yes, I will jump in with a reminder that if you want to ask a question in person or with your voice, you can do that by reacting and raising your hand. And if you prefer textual questions, you can do that in the Q&A box below.
Yeah, of course, I can share the slides. It's not a problem. I can send them to Enrica and she would somehow distribute them, right?
Definitely. And the presentation will also be available on our YouTube channel, Baltas lankos klet on YouTube. I see that there is a question. When will the test appear on OPIC platform? Thank you. Okay, so the tests are already there. So I believe it would be better if I would just share it. That might be handy. I will switch to Lithuanian language for now because this is the information about the online platform. Taip, tai iš tikrųjų testai yra jau įkelti. Taip pat tik tai pasidalinsiu savo ekranu. Taip, tai kai mes prisijungiame prie OPIC platformos ir norime rasti reikalingą medžiagą tam, kad pasiekti visus papildomus šaltinius, tuos, kurie yra būtent tik tais čia, tai einame į biblioteką, pasirenkame, jog vis tik mums yra aktualus anglų kalbos dalykas. Ir dabar mes matome du vadovėlius. Tai šiuo atveju aktualus yra vadovėlis Get Involved, apie kurį ir buvo ši prezentacija penktokams, tačiau čia papildomas medžiagos nėra, kadangi tai yra medžiaga skirta moksleiviams. Jūs kaip mokytojai norite pasirinkti mokytojo vadovą arba galite pasirinkti funkciją visi ir tokiu atveju matysite ne tik tai vadovėlius, kurie yra skirti moksleiviams, bet taip pat ir mokytojams skirtą medžiagą. Tai šiuo atveju, jeigu mes atėjome prie medžiagos mokytojams, paspaudę papildomą medžiagą mygtuką, matysime visą reikalingą informaciją. Tai yra papildomi žaidimai kalbėjimui ugdyti ir skatinti. Turime taipogi evaluation rubrics, kurie buvo parodyti, kad moksleiviai galėtų įsivertinti save nuo bent 5 iki bent 1, ką jie padarė, ko nepadarė, kaip pasiekti geresnį rezultatą. Taipogi papildoma medžiaga gramatikai, kaip ir minėjo mūsų kalbėtoja, nuo basics, standard iki higher. Taipogi ir visi testai, kurie yra reikalingi, bei reikalinga medžiaga tam, kad galėtumėte pasitikrinti atsakymus iš pratybų.
Right. If I may just butt in, there was a question, how to write word test. I think, I hope that was the question that I got it when it was there. So I use different ways how to test if the students know the words. We sometimes write I would say like typical tests when I just say the word in our language and they write down the English equivalent. But this seems quite boring, I would say, for both sides. But we do it every now and then. We do it in the way that sometimes I check it, or sometimes the person sitting next to the person checks it, or the person checks it on their own. That depends. But what I love using with kids is that each class have a tin box, and in the tin box they have tiny little pieces of paper. From one side there's the English word, and from the other side there's the Czech equivalent. And they love taking those tin boxes. They even very often ask for them when they are finished with their work, or sometimes they ask for them if they can take them for weekends. And they basically either play it with more kids, or they just take it on their own and they test themselves, because they take the piece of paper and they either see the word in their language or in English, and they translate it for themselves. And as they turn the paper, they see the right answer. So this is the way how we sometimes do it. And sometimes we test each other, even like in the lesson, that we say like, okay, so let's say that you have to say 5 words correct. So they have to say 5 words correct, then they pass on the tin box, and we make the kind of vocabulary round. So that might be quite funny.
Taip, matau, yra klausimas skirtas man dėl OPIC platformos, kad kol kas nepavyko prisijungti, tai šitoje vietoje paprašysime, kad parašytumėte arba laiškelį tiesiogiai į OPIC. Nuorodas jas buvo pasidalintos pokalbėje, taipogi dar pakartosime ir po viso webinaro dar kartelį visas nuorodas, kad jeigu kažkas dar nepavyko prisijungti prie sistemos, tai visų pirma, jeigu nesikreipiate į OPIC, tada kreiptis visų pirma ten, o jeigu to nepadarėte, tuomet kreiptis į mus mūsų kontaktais. Tai būtų arba info@opic.lt, pirminis kreipimasis, jeigu tai jau buvo padaryta, tačiau ne viskas pasisekė, tada jau kreiptis į mus švietimas@lankos.lt. Taip, tai kol kas pratybos nėra planuojamos būti įkeltos į OPIC platformą, tačiau tikrai atkreipsime dėmesį į komentarus, į pastabas ir jeigu matysime poreikį, tikrai atsižvelgsime. Taip, matau, yra klausimas, ar reikia surašyti mokinius į platformą. Tai iš tikrųjų yra derinama su administratoriumi, jisai gali jums pagelbėti. Tai vėlgi dėl šito klausimo paprašysiu kreiptis į švietimas@elankos.lt, kad padėtų sužiūrėti, jog jūsų mokiniai galėtų prisijungti sėkmingai ir naudotis visą reikalingą medžiagą. Taip, matau, jog dalyvavote kitame seminare apie marbles, tai tiesiog dar nespėjo mūsų IT komanda sugeneruoti įrašo, kad jisai atsirastų, tačiau tikrai atsiras, kad galėtų būti pasiekiamas ir peržiūrėtas visiems, kuriems jisai buvo aktualus. Patikslinu, kad vaizdo įrašai nebus atsiųsti į elektroninį paštą, vaizdo įrašai bus patalpinti mūsų YouTube kanale. Taip, mūsų YouTube kanalas Baltos lankos klet. Mielai pasidalinsiu taip pat nuorodą, jeigu dar nepavyko mūsų rasti, kad galėtumėte prieiti prie mūsų kanalą. Galbūt dar turime klausimų mūsų pasakotojai. So, Vladimira, I don't know if you are familiar with Lithuanian language, but all of these achus, they're thank yous for you.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. Yeah, thank you. It was really great to be here. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
The teachers are telling that it was definitely useful and valuable.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
I believe that we can let our presenter go. And in case if you still have any more questions regarding Lithuanian edition or OPIC, I will stay here to answer those for a few minutes, just to make sure that every question is answered. So thank you, Vladimira, very much for today. I hope you have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Have a great time in your classrooms with your students. And if there is any question which is for me, just send it to me and I'll answer, of course.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Taip, jeigu dar turite kažkokių klausimų dėl paties pilotavimo ar vadovėlių, kurie buvo pristatyti jau rudens sezonui, tai drąsiai klauskite. Taip, nuorodą aš buvau pasidalinusi mūsų pokalbėje, galiu dar kartelį pasidalinti dėl viso pikto. Taip, mūsų kanalas yra Baltos lankos klet. Jeigu neturėsite galimybės paspausti pačią nuorodą, tai tuomet tiesiog galite YouTube paieškoje parašyti Baltos lankos klet. Na, matau, naujų klausimų nebeatsiranda, tuomet susisieksime ir informuosime apie visas naujienas įprastiniu būdu. Labai dėkoju visiems prisijungusiems ir sėkmingų mokslo metų.